quick video, tell y'all a little bit about this place. Most of what you're looking at here is over 400 years old. It's from the Croatoan tribe, Hatteras tribe, same thing. Some of the pipes they're smoking out of, and arrowheads and spearheads and axe heads, and these whelk shells were actually used as a hoe. They called them a rashakwan, and those holes are where the handle went in, and the wooden handle went into a drilled hole. Actually, you can see where they drilled it. And then the big long beak that's normally on a whelk is worn down, smooth to a little nub because of just overuse. And when they got down to this point, they threw them in their midden in their dump, which is where we found these. But that's what they were using to till the soil with. And lots of pottery. Some of it we can put together, some of it we can't. Bow drill stones for starting fires. And unfortunately, this tribe and everything about them, their diet, their religion, their politics, their way of life, their language, which I'm trying to preserve here, most of it has been just swept under the rug and ignored because they're part of that lost colony mythology. And in order to have a lost colony, you have to have a lost Croatoan too. And currently they pretend like they don't know what the word Croatoan even means. At least on the hysterical channel, that's the route they're going. And that is what we were taught in school as kids as well. It's always been a lie. The textbooks prior to 1937 tell the truth. So in 37, of course, when the play started, and as an unwanted byproduct, maybe the story got twisted even in the school system. Hatteras Island, or Croatoan, is where the English landed first in 1584, ironically on July 4th. And they were here to make an offshore military base. This is just a recon mission. They only were here for 6 weeks, but they lived on Hatteras the entire time, except for 7 of them who spent 1 day at Roanoke Island before returning to England. They met Manio here on Hatteras Island. Manio is from here, and they met him here when they landed and lived here for 6 weeks. Wanchese is from Mans Harbor, and the two of them would go to England in 1584. And when they returned in 1585, the first 4 months were spent at Croatoan again. And then some of the men moved to Roanoke Island because they were at war with Mans Harbor. They ended up murdering the chief under a flag of truce, shot him in the back twice, and cut his head off. His name was Pemesipan. You always hear Wingina, which was also his name, but he changed his name after his father, Insinor, and his brother, Granganameo, died of English diseases. There was a contingent of English living at Croatoan on the second voyage too, under Edward Stafford, and they spotted Francis Drake coming up the coast, and they flagged him down with smoke. He rescued them all and took them back to England. This would be Manio's second trip to England. During the ambush of the Secretan chief at Mans Harbor, Ralph Lane, the military captain, wrote down that he was careful watching for Manio and his friends to make sure none of them were hurt, because the Croatoan helped them in the ambush. After Ralph Lane and the second voyage to here all left and went back to England with Manio again, the third voyage came in to resupply them, not knowing they'd already left. And that third voyage left 15 men on Roanoke Island to hold the fort, literally. And they got attacked by warriors of Dasakumonopo, Polmiak, Guskokak, and Secretan. They had actually burned the village of Auguskokak the year before that second voyage had, and his third voyage is going to pay the price for what the second voyage had done. As one of them is shot through the mouth with an arrow, and one of them has his head bashed in with a club, and their fort is burned, and they're chased off. They managed to shoot one of the Secretan warriors in the leg before that happened. We know this because when the Lost Colony came in to Roanoke to pick up these 15 men, They found the skeleton of one of them. They found the fort burned down. And then one of the colonists was killed. His name was George Howe. He was shot 16 times with arrows, had his head bashed in like a piñata. When that happened, Governor White, John White, sent 20 men with Edward Stafford and Manio to the island of Croatoan to get help and find out what had happened to their 15 men and who had killed George Howe, where they were given detailed descriptions of both from the Croatoan, who hosted them to a feast and asked them if they could have some kind of token or badge where they could be recognized when they were off the island and not mistaken for some of Wingina's men, some of the Secotan. And the English asked the Croatoan, can you go to Daso Kamonapo and negotiate peace for us, or try to? And if they don't want to be our friends, or we don't hear an answer from them within a week, then we're going to attack and kill them. Well, a week went by and the guys on Roanoke didn't hear anything. So they went over to Daso Kamonapo ready to fight, and somebody yelled out Stafford's name, Edward Stafford. It was the Croatoan. They had taken over the entire town and were stealing all of the corn and pumpkins, which they shared with the English. They said that when they came to talk, that the Secotan were so afraid of them, they fled and abandoned the town. Minitonan is there with his wife and baby. He's the chief of the Croatoan. The English give him a ride on a lightship to Roanoke, where he watches baby Harvey and Virginia Dare be born. He watches Manio get baptized, and the governor leaves and leaves instructions for the colony to carve out the name of the place they relocated to if they should leave, and to put a cross under it if they left for reasons of danger. When he comes back 3 years later, he sees Croatoan with no cross. He also sees crow on another tree where the boats were kept. Governor knew exactly what it meant, but they had had 7 people drowned on their voyage to Roanoke, and spirits were low. And the next day, when they tried to go to Croatoan, they were hit by a storm, driven 23 miles out to sea, and their ship was damaged, and they lost an anchor, and the men had had it. So they went back, and they actually ended up wrecking in Ireland on the way back to England. And so the last thing the governor wrote about it was, I greatly enjoyed that I had safely found a certain token of their safe being at Croatoan, which is a place where Manuel was born. The savages of that island are friends. Not what does that mean, where are they? That never happened. That all comes from fiction, and it's very annoying because doing that erases these people completely if you pretend to not even know what the name of the tribe means, and that's got to stop.